Hello, and welcome to the Gaia update for the Aries full moon that's happening on September 24th, 2018. I'm Adrienne Elise. So this Aries full moon is incredibly potent. There are so many aspects involving so many planets with this full moon. Now, the main thing about it is that the full moon is happening at the early degrees, about 2 degrees Aries. So this is very close to Chiron. Now, Chiron has turned retrograde and will be heading back into Pisces by the end of the month. So we are looking at our woundedness, and the full moon shines light. It's reflecting the sun. And so it's shining light on whatever it's aspected to. And in this case, it's shining light on our deepest wounds, our collective wounds over this last Piscean age, and also our individual woundedness and whatever we're going through. So this full moon is going to be power-packed as far as illuminating what has been holding us back. Now, that can be a really, really great thing, because this is where we give our power over. When we have been wounded or traumatized, and a lot of times, most of us have traumas from past lives that are actually playing out parallel in this life, and we don't even realize the root causes and where these things are coming from. And it causes us to create belief systems that are not actually valid in reality. And then we lose our autonomy and our power to these belief systems. So this is incredibly powerful full moon for that reason. Now, the other thing that's going on is that, so a full moon always happens, the reason why it's full is because it's exactly opposite the sun in the zodiac. So the sun, in this case, is conjunct to Mercury. And so this is really powerful because Mercury has, this is the first Sun-Mercury conjunction since Mercury went since the retrograde in Leo that happened in the month of August. So we are having, now the sun is illuminating Mercury, and Mercury wants to understand. Now, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and Virgo. And it's about discriminating and understanding and having, things make sense. So when Mercury and the sun come together, it's like they're having a conference. And they're being like, okay, wait a minute, what happened to you? What happened to me? They stay pretty close in the sky. But we have not had them together since the retrograde. And so there's an incredible amount of information available, or at least understanding in our everyday conceptual reality what has been going on. And it's been a power-packed few months. So we're having a culmination energy of these last 5-6 months of astrology and 2018 in general, which has been super potent. It's an adjustment year, and we're trying to get used to new energies, allow new energies to come in, and let go of the old belief systems that are holding us back. And that's everything that's happening in the stars, the messages for this Aries full moon. Now, we know that Saturn is in square to Chiron. So what this means is that the sun will be in square to Saturn and opposite Chiron. So Mercury and the sun together will be opposite the moon and Chiron. Really potent, because the moon is our emotions, and it's our emotional health, our emotional state. And so with the moon there at the beginning degrees of Aries, which is about freedom, it's about new starts, it's a cardinal sign, it's the spring, it's about coming into a whole new reality, and it's like, let's go, people. But then the moon in square to Chiron, so we've got the moon and Chiron together in square to Saturn, and the sun and Mercury together in square to Saturn. So it's a T-square at the early degrees of these cardinal signs. And it's saying, so this is kind of cool, because as much as you'd be hard pressed to make it through these next few weeks without a bloom of stuff from the past showing you where you've given your power over to these false belief systems. But we also have this incredible spark of new beginning energy. That's what Aries represents. And especially at these early degrees, it's the initiatory energy. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac in the spring energy, and it's the very kind of the biggest instigator sign of the cardinal signs, which are the instigators. So it's like, bam, we want to break through. This is the seed sprouting out of its shell in a new beginning. And so incredibly powerful. And a T-square here at the early degrees of the cardinal signs, this is saying that we are starting officially a new chapter, a new age. And that falls right in line with this whole last season of retrograde energy. Now, of course, Chiron is retrograde and about to head back into those last degrees of Pisces that are about deep, painful wounds and programming that's like nearly impossible. You know, this feeling of like getting sucked back into a pattern, and you're like, I dealt with this years ago, right? Lifetimes ago. What is it doing popping up now? And it's like, obviously it's popping up because there's some part of you that's still resonating there. And don't you want to find it? Don't you want to find it and get rid of it for good? And so those last degrees of Pisces are about digging up the muck. Pisces is the death before the Aries rebirth. And so with Chiron heading back into there and coming up with this conjunction with this full moon, it's giving us some messages that it is time to complete and be ready for these new chapters. So we've got that T-square going on, and we also have, so the cool thing, so Saturn square Chiron is going to be going on for a while, and Saturn is, of course, this is the crux of this whole energy. Saturn is squared Chiron. Saturn at the very beginning degrees of the cardinal sign Capricorn, at home in Capricorn. It's about true justice and true integrity and making things right in the world. Saturn back home in Capricorn wants to bring an energy of law that's based on fairness and integrity, and challenging everywhere we've given our authority away to false concepts or false ideas of authority, or where, like with these belief systems, where have we given our power away and let other forces decide our destiny. So Saturn square Chiron has an energy of like taking back our free will universe, taking back the fact that we do have free will, and that we can choose to set our vibration at a higher place, to be open to those true cosmic forces and the higher vibrations that are coming to the planet, rather than this lower programming that just wants to keep us in this karmic loop. And that's kind of where we've been, it's like a tug of war we've been in here for this whole last just so many years with this Chiron and Pisces. So this is highlighted because what's happening is that these planets, the sun and the moon and Mercury, move pretty quickly. And so they're kind of cruising along. But what happens is they're like coming in. So Saturn square Chiron's happening. We're going to feel that for, ongoing for the next month or so. And then these planets are personal planets. The sun, the moon, and Mercury are all part of our personal planets, the fast-moving planets. They represent our daily reality. And our daily reality is coming into an exact alignment at exactly the full moon with this Saturn square Chiron. So we can't avoid this energy, and there's sure to be a bloom, like I said, of these past wounds, but it's this opportunity to set yourself free. Aries, more than anything, wants freedom. Freedom to be, this is what the Aries energy is about, and especially this full moon is because of all the other astrology in this era that we're in right now. And it's about whether or not it's okay for you to be who you really are. Is it okay for you to be free to be who you really are? So Aries has issues around where they feel like they have to limit themselves or hide who they are in order to get their needs met, or to get along with other people and to be in this world. And so it's like, do you have a right to exist as who you really are? And Aries has a fierce desire for freedom. And so this is coming up right now, and all the chains. So Chiron represents basically those wounds, deep, deep wounds. And you can't get those over one lifetime, right? We repeat these patterns, but this has been, it pretty much, Chiron represents like, what is your core wound in your whole earth evolution that you've been on this earth? And so it's kind of heavy, you know, but it's great, because when we have these karmic, it's like a vortex of energy, and that karma from the past kind of keeps us facing backwards. And as much as we try to get going forward on a new timeline or into new energy, we keep getting pulled into that vortex of the past. So the stars are working with us right now. The planets are saying it's time to release this programming and free yourself into being who you really are. Okay, so there's a great energy, and this is might be a focus of the activation, is that we can kind of have a what I call like a reincarnation, not a reincarnation, but a reincarnation, like going back through, you walking through your steps of coming into this existence, and where did these deep wounds and programming, especially family karma and stuff like that, get in the way of your coming in fully in your light to this body, into the earth. And this is part of the deal with the light worker soul. You have big light and big soul, and you can exist in pieces. But is that really the best use of your energy? Is that what you're here to do? Exist in pieces and fractured, where you are compartmentalized, and part of you can exist, and then the other part of you have to hide, or you know, kind of, it's almost like creates like a split, a schism in the being from these past life traumas that have kept you in pieces. And it's time to bring back all these parts of ourselves and claim our right to be free and whole and who we really are on this planet. And so we can kind of set that intention with this activation to grab a hold of these parts of ourselves that we want to really bring into this realm, because it's frustrating. We might have all this other experience and all this other knowledge from other dimensional realities that we've existed in as a light worker soul, and then we only have access to this one consciousness, and it feels kind of like you're trapped. And it's not actually true. We have access, and other parts of ourselves have access, our highest self, and we can tap into that, and tap into that support and trust and surrender to the higher part of ourselves that knows what's going on, and allow for this shift to happen, and allow ourselves to become more whole and complete, and heal these schisms in our soul of where we've separated ourselves and compartmentalized ourselves. You know, what's coming to mind is a really obvious example of, say, maybe coming into this realm and trying to bring healing energy, maybe in the dark ages, and then being burned as a witch, right? And that energy is going to make that part of yourself, that beautiful healing energy you tried to bring to the planet, compartmentalized and kind of taboo, right? Like, you don't really want to go through that again, right? And that's the point that the control energies were kind of getting at with that. And yet we, you know, when we do reclaim these parts of ourselves and become whole and complete, then it's like the power of this light coming to the planet is so incredibly potent, and that's who you are and where you are at right now. And so this Aries full moon is exactly about that. It's like the Piscean age. Chiron going back into Pisces represents that Piscean age and all those wounds of the medieval time. That's just an example of the level of persecution that happened in the darkest times on this planet, and naive indigo lightworker souls came in again and again trying to bring peace and harmony and justice, and then kind of getting slammed down. So, but that's just a story that happened, but it's not who we are. It doesn't define us. We've got to stop letting our past traumas tell us who we are, and that's what this Aries fire is so potent with this full moon. And we're also still feeling this Saturn trine Uranus, which is really sweet. It's about building a new world, bringing new energies to the earth, receiving these cosmic messages as we travel into new activated parts of the galaxy. And so that they're at the early degrees there. So it's kind of cool because Saturn is in square with Chiron, yeah, but it's also in trine with Uranus. And that's about like, bam, lightning comes in, lighting up the darkness, lighting up all of the distortion. And it might be a little bit kind of like that ego death thing, and rocking and rolling, and, you know, the awakener, earthquake within us. But it's beautiful because it's cleansing and purifying. And just think of all of the beautiful, like, negative ions that come from lightning, and kind of shine the light on what is on the distortions of this world. So we've got this really sweet, harmonious energy around building a new world, because Saturn is that manifested reality, and then Uranus is like, this new lightning, cosmic forces, information from the higher realms trying to come in. And so really sweetly harmonized. And so we can use that energy to be able to reprogram and release all of these vortexes that keep pulling us into past patterns. And of course, they have to come up in order for us to find them and be able to do that work. And that's a big part of this Aries full moon. But claiming that freedom and claiming that free will and claiming your right to be who you are, whole and complete on the planet right now. So really, really sweet energy. And that's actually what's bringing in this new world, because you're the receiver of these new cosmic energies and holding them in your heart, resonating with them in your heart, and offering them. It's almost like we have this huge control matrix. And so the cosmic energy forces that we keep talking about, like, oh, we're having this awakening, right? And it's like, I'm not seeing any awakening. I'm seeing more darkness and more confusion. And it's like, yeah, because the control energies are clamping down. And so that's why we're here, is to receive those cosmic energies and be the transmitter of those through our heart, you know, to help other people who don't know how, or don't have the concept, or haven't evolved to the point to be able to go outside of the control energy grid. So this is our single most powerful kind of purpose right now, is to allow ourselves to use our free will, to use our divine will, our spiritual will, to resonate at the higher frequency vibrations. And that's really what's going on. So I hope you can join me for the live activation. This is going to be on Monday, the 24th, September 24th, at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're going to lead right up to the exact time of this Aries full moon and use our collective energy together to claim this right to be who we really are and be on the planet, and release all of these old stories that we bought into that are not true. So I hope you can join me for that live activation. And until next time, or then, I look forward to seeing you. I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.